Hello and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Millie and I love any makeup, especially shiny, shifty, and sparkly eyeshadows. But in general, I just really love eyeshadows, especially eyeshadow palettes. I have so many of them. I haven't counted in a while, but it's at least probably 100 palettes. And I've been seeing everyone doing this kind of almost tag video where they pick a bunch of palettes from their collection. They talk about if they would repurchase them, given if they knew about the palette and how it performs, if they would repurchase it, or had it been coming out right now, would they be purchasing it? This idea is originally done by Dolly Mama here on YouTube, and I will make sure to link all her information down in the description box, so definitely make sure you check her out. I've seen Glitter Fallout do this, I've seen Batty Bean do this, and there's so many other creators that have been doing this kind of video, and it's just been so much fun to watch. So I'm going to be putting a little bit of a spin on this, and I'm going to talk about only palettes that I've received in PR. I don't get like a ton of PR, but I have been getting PR over the last couple of years, so there was quite a bit to choose from for sure. Let me know if you would like to see me do this with palettes I have purchased. The thing with PR is some brands do ask you ahead of time if you're interested in receiving that collection in PR, and some don't. They will just send everything or some of it, etc. So I would say in a lot of these cases I did say yes in receiving this in PR. So I feel like that kind of, negates the like, would I buy this? Well, if I said yes to getting PR, then I would have most likely bought it. So I have 10 palettes to go through, and I picked one palette from each brand that I have received PR from. So there's Kaleidos, there's What's Up Beauty, Odin's Eye, Sugar Drizzle, etc, etc. So let's just jump right into it, just in no particular order. First palette I have up here is the What's Up Beauty Desert Monsoon palette. This is the brand's first palette that they came out with last year. They originally were just doing nails, and I was very excited to try something from them. I really said yes to PR on this one because I really wanted to try it out. Would I have purchased it? I don't think so, just because while I love the palette, like knowing what I know about this palette, I think it's beautiful. It performs really nicely. The shimmers are so sparkly, and the mattes really blend so easily, but it is just not really like a color story that pulls me in and that makes me want to reach for this palette. So I would not purchase this palette had I not received it in PR. Next up is the Kaleidos. I think this one is the Black Jasmine palette. This is a more recent palette, and this was from their Smoky Nostalgia collection, and this is a neutral palette. Now this one is a tricky one because I don't think that I need like a little quad of brown eyeshadows necessarily. The shimmer in here is definitely a different formula for Kaleidos. From their other palettes, I may be totally wrong, but it does feel different, and it does give me that like shine and sparkle. So I was still really excited to try it out regardless, and I felt like the mattes were a little bit different from their other formulas as well. So I don't think I would have purchased this one because it's just not really something that I feel like I need in my collection. I have plenty of neutral eyeshadows, though I do like that it's a 4-pan palette, so it's really travel friendly. So next up is the Surge palette from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. I did purchase their first palette, the Blends palette, myself when it came out, and then I started receiving PR after that, and I would have definitely bought this palette because I feel like this color story, while yes, there's quite a bit of shades in here, it is such a unique layout, and it's just so much fun to have pastels, but also lots of deep mattes and neons in here, and the rose shimmers. This was the first time that Blend Bunny was doing shimmer shadows. These are not my favorite shimmers. They do crease on me pretty easily. I think the standouts in here are Flash and Zip It Up, and All Mine is just a little bit like falls a little bit flat for me, but I would have definitely purchased this palette, especially knowing what I know about Blend Bunny Cosmetics and how this palette performs. I dip into this palette all the time. All the time. So the next palette is the Chase Your Dreams palette from Cine Cosmetics. I did do this type actually on the front of this palette when I used to freelance for Cine Grace, and this is the lighter version. I believe they had a light and medium or dark version of this as well, and when I first received this in PR, I was so excited because I really love the Cine Grace formula. They have beautiful shimmers, they have beautiful mattes. This shade right here, the Enjoy Their Journey shade, is so interesting. It's not like per se black, it's definitely got a little bit of a plumminess to it. I've created some really beautiful looks with this palette off camera. I did not do a dedicated video on this palette, and I can see actually that some of these shades are even untouched, so your best and don't quit because these look like satins, and I don't like satins. So based on that, I would not be purchasing this palette had it not been gifted to me. The shimmers are really beautiful, the mattes are really stunning, but it's really just the satins I'm really not a huge fan of, especially because they're darker satins. Like, I know I won't get any use out of them, so it wouldn't really make sense for me to be buying this palette. Next up is another cute little 9-pan palette. This is the Druid palette from Fantasy Cosmetica. This is a brand new brand, and I did do a dedicated video on this one. I would have definitely purchased this because I love the color story. This is so beautiful, so grungy. I love the shimmers in here. I definitely do have dupes to some of these shades already, but I feel like for me it's really just the fact that it's in a palette. It's just really nice and handy to have. I think this would be a great travel palette as well. Just some beautiful shimmers, beautiful mattes. If you want to see some looks with this palette, definitely check out that video. So next up is the Adventure palette from Game Beauty. This was their first palette that came out, I believe it was last year, and this one, I love the packaging. Like, they have some of the most beautiful packaging ever. They've also come out with some brushes and highlighters since they've come out with some more palettes, but this is their first palette. So when this palette launched, I was definitely very tempted because I just wanted to try it out because it was a new brand, it was game themed, and it just looked like it was going to be a really fun up and coming brand, but I just couldn't quite do it with the price tag on this palette and the fact that there's a pressed glitter in here and we don't have that very many pans. Like, I don't mind if it's like a 20-pan palette or something, or 25, and there's one glitter. Like, I'll suck it up for that, but because this is such a condensed color story, I really tend to hesitate much more. Now, they sent this to me actually quite a bit after it launched. They originally were sending me the palette that launched after this, and I do have a dedicated video on this one, and I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think it's okay. The mattes are okay. Some of these shimmers are a little bit fun, but there are a couple of satins and just a little bit too underwhelming of shimmers in here. So I would not be repurchasing this palette, knowing what I know now, and also just knowing that I didn't buy it when it launched in the first place. Next up is the Odin's Eye Giant Wolves palette, which was a collaboration with Annette's Makeup Corner, and I absolutely love this palette so much. You can try to rip it from my cold dead hands because I would 100,000,000% repurchase this. It is currently not available anymore, and I'm so happy I received this in PR. I'm really happy I received all the other palettes in the Legendary Diversa collection when they came out because these are so beautiful. This was one of my first experiences with the Odin's Eye formulation actually, and I love the shimmers, and the mattes are super nice. There's lots of depth in here. The shimmers are super sparkly. They give me exactly what I look for in a shiny eyeshadow, especially Eternal. Beautiful multi-chrome. Can't believe there's a multi-chrome in here. Definitely would be purchasing this, like, many times over. So next up is the Dragonfly Warrior palette from Sugar Drizzle, another beautiful little 9-pan palette. I was so excited when I saw this color story. Sugar Drizzle is one of the brands that does ask me before sending me something if I want to receive it in PR, and the moment I saw this, I was like, yes. I would definitely have bought this. I love the color story of this. There's two black-based multi-chromes. They're not the shiniest like black-based multi-chromes you've ever seen, but I think for the price of this palette, it's an amazing deal. And then the rest of the shimmers are just so beautiful, so shiny, so sparkly. There's some beautiful duochromes. Amazing is a duochrome. Spirit is so much fun to layer. Fly Baby Fly. And I love that there's a black matte eyeshadow to pair with these other bright matte eyeshadows. So I love this palette. I would 150% have bought this myself and repurchased this one. I really do love this one. So next up is the Codeine palette from Adept Cosmetics. I believe this one is not available anymore. It was a limited edition run. You could switch out these two mattes for some of their other shimmers, and this was the first palette I received in PR from Adept. I had previously purchased the Plain Jane palette as well as the Nihydran palette, and I absolutely fell in love with the Adept Cosmetics formula. I mean, those palettes are just staples in my collection. I cannot rave enough about those. And they did ask me if I wanted to receive this palette in PR, and I said yes because I was really intrigued by these two mattes paired with these shimmers, and also I knew that there was two black-based multichromes in here, and I just felt like that was really amazing to put into a palette like this. And for the price, there's also some other multichromes like ACI 31 and ACI 26, and they're a little bit more translucent, and then there's some other regular shimmers. I honestly don't think I would repurchase this palette, or I would have purchased it. I might have purchased it because like multichromes, but I don't think I would repurchase it, like knowing what I know now and having this. I don't feel like this is really like a color story that speaks to me in terms of, like, obviously this is mostly shimmers, but I just feel like there's other all shimmer palettes that speak to me a bit more. And while these are super beautiful shades, and I love that there's a black-based multichromes and the mattes are super fun, I just think that it doesn't really like add anything too special in my collection like the Plain Jane and then the Hydrogen palette do, and the new Adept Cosmetics and Heather Austin palette. Like I really just love those palettes. So I don't think I would repurchase this. So last up is the Whistler Snow Lodge palette from Nomad Cosmetics. This was the first palette from Nomad I received in PR. I had previously bought a bunch of their previous palettes, and I love the theming of this palette and the packaging. Of course, they always knock it out of the park. Super cute, and I love the imprints in here. There's just all different kinds of imprints, especially the bunny one because I'm biased because I love bunnies. But this is definitely a really cute palette, and I feel like they've been really amping it up with their mattes and their shimmers. This one is a tricky one because while I do really like the color story and like the different mixture of the mattes and the shimmers, especially the deepening up shades in here, I'm not sure if I would purchase this because I feel like the color story isn't like unique enough in my collection that I feel like I would really want to buy this and feel like I have something unique compared to their Iceland palette and the Haunted Europe palette. Like I absolutely love those two palettes and I would absolutely repurchase those even though I did already purchase those. I've been sitting here for like 5 minutes and I don't think I would repurchase this one. Like it really pains my heart because I love Nomad Cosmetics and I love their other eyeshadow palettes, and I think that's why I wouldn't repurchase this one because I feel like the other ones stand out to me more in terms of just everything, the whole aesthetic, compared to this one. So I think that's my verdict on this one. So those are 10 palettes I received in PR, and they also vary in like when they launched. Are they newer palettes, older palettes, etc.? Let me know in the comments below if you would like to see like a part 2. Do you want to see only PR? Do you want to see some palettes that I actually purchased, and would I repurchase? Also, I'm really curious, did any of these shock you? That's everything for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, I would love it if you subscribe. There's so much any makeup content uploading my channel and much more to come. You don't want to miss out. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.